the button. Yeah, I did. The red button. It's on the back of the camera, though. No real explosion, but I can dream. Anyway, Puro did some video called Bad Scientists, Bad Science. And so he's critiquing the cranks, the over there guys who are saying, nah, some other way. And you know, I could mock them myself. Like I said, and obviously I'm in their category, but, you know, I'm right, and they're lunatics. So, yeah, I'm fringe, but I happen to be the golden egg kind of fringe, you know. I mean, there's lots of lookalikes, or there's lots of fool's gold, but there's sometimes a real gold, you know. So, yeah, I'm the real deal. They're silly. It's the way it turns out. You know, convenient for me, obviously, because, yeah, I'm not an idiot or a fool. You know, so I'm going to come off looking really good. And bad for them because, yeah, they're all flawed and silly and they won't admit it. So, I mean, the one guy he did link to, you know, this Bill Grady guy, you know, I did send him an email and he just, you know, didn't respond at all to what I was proposing and instead just said, no, it's rope theory, rope. And he just kept telling me his stuff and didn't pay any attention to what I was writing and saying. So it was like, well, what's the point? And he doesn't allow comments on his videos, you know, the science videos. It's like, well, yeah, so he's not engaged. He doesn't want to have a debate about any of this crap. So that's a little bit different than me. I'm inviting somebody to give me a real argument. Explain. I mean, I could explain in 10 seconds how his rope theory doesn't work. You know, because the ropes are going to get all tangled. There's no way that a photon could go all the way across space on a rope, okay, without the rope getting hit by other stuff and getting tangled. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. There's rope in the way, where if it's an independent photon moving the speed of light, there's no rope problem. Anyway, it just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, so Piro's going to critique me here, sort of, but nothing. There's no substance here, so I'll respond to it because she's just making some gratuitous insults, and then just talking about how somehow he's got the insight, he's got the vision. He doesn't have any of that shit. It's full of shit. He's just talking out of pop culture convenientism ass. What he wants to be true, not the truth. Anyway, yeah, so it's not really any substance. So I'll try to add some substance. You know, related to the Einstein thing, which is an interesting thing. Well, I'll let him start, and then I'll get to it as soon as he mentions this beginning part, which is just a lie.
Gary, who, you know, when I first arguments with Gary, I think the first time he blocked me was when he talked about, you know, an object going near the speed of light, sending off an object at the speed of light, and that going twice the speed of light, and that's just, you know, it's obviously not how it works. I think he did.
No, I mean, I obviously said there's no way it can happen, and that's exactly my point. It can't happen. So the thing has to be already going the speed of light, was my point. Again, matter is not made, energy is not absorbed by matter and then converted into something else and then reconverted back into something. It's absorbed as what it is, stuff moving the speed of light. It's captured by an atom, it's still moving the speed of light. So when an atom, when an electron emits a photon, it's not emitting anything. It's releasing something that's already moving the speed of light. It already has its own trajectory, and it leaves exactly the same speed it's going currently. Just like if the Earth was to leave the solar system. If the sun, for a minute, just said, fuck you, I'm not going to pull you on you anymore, and just released the Earth would be going the speed of light. Regardless of whatever speed the solar system's going, the Earth would leave going the same speed it's going now. It wouldn't acquire any new speed. It wouldn't have a double speed. It wouldn't have any of that shit. Period. Well, it's not a good example because actually material objects can combine speeds. So if the entire solar system is moving in a direction, the same direction the Earth left in, then it would combine. But see, that's on the quantum level. There is no such thing. There's no such thing as combined movement. There's only photons moving the speed of light. There's only quantons moving the speed of light. Everything's made out of them. There's nothing else. And they don't do anything else but move the speed of light. All matter is made of stuff going the speed of light. Matter is not solid. It's an arrangement of quanta moving the speed of light. Light is just one tiny fraction that has a specific frequency. The rest of the stuff in the universe doesn't have a frequency, so we don't see it, but it's there. All right, well, anyway, I'll get to the Einstein part. Well, let them do a little more, and then I'll, because this is, I'm just saying, he completely misparaphrased. I have never, ever, ever contended anything ever goes faster than the speed of light. My argument was that if something is moving very fast and it emits a photon in the same direction, that creates a paradox. So it can't add the speed. So the photon can't leave at the same speed, so to speak. So if it has a frequency, its frequency is going to be shortened. So it's not going to be the same frequency of light. You can't emit visible light if you're moving this half the speed of light and you emit a photon. You can't possibly emit it as visible light because you're moving and the frequency will be narrowed and you'll be instead emitting an X-ray. So if you want to emit visible light, you'd have to project a radio wave. So if I'm moving the speed, half the speed of light in a direction and I shine photons ahead of me, if I want them to be visible light, I would have to emit them as radio waves.
As now. And you got mad. But that was fine. We could discuss physics. And
yeah, we've gotten mad lots of times, and I've gotten mad because you're a slandering slob. You call me a rape apologist because I could understand a white man falling in love with a black woman during slavery? Silly me.
Our own interpretations of the evidence of reality, but now it's pointless for me to talk these crank theories with someone. It is a crank theory.
Yeah, whatever. Pointless because you don't have any will to be at all interested in making a counter argument, because that's requires some kind of effort, and you just don't want to make the effort. Fine, just say that. You just don't give a shit. But what exactly is there? Some way I can? Just so we understand the bargain here, I'll accept that slight if it's with the understanding that I get to mock the fuck out of you when I'm proven right. Right? I get to say that, boy, your vision sure was clouded. Boy, you sure had your open mind pretty fucking closed, didn't you, shithead? Boy, you really couldn't see it, right? It's right in front of you. It smells, it tastes, it touches like a duck, and you couldn't see the fucking duck? Gee, you're really stupid. So I get to do that, right?
They're not going to adhere it in because, see, I apply this to myself. I have my own theory of space and time.
And it's ludicrous and silly, no doubt. I wish you'd make videos about it so I could make fun of them. I could make fun of your paramecium videos, because right there, that's already silly enough, right? Microtubules are now neurons. So, biology, right? This thing that's created this incredibly complex organism. Just think of all the complex features you have. The complex eyes, complex ears, all this complex shit, right? Built over millions and millions of years, right? There's just retesting and retesting and retesting, right? Just killing millions and trillions of all these defective versions and all this selective breeding, all this thing to create this highly efficient machine, a heart that beats for 100 fucking years. Just kick-ass technology, right? So it has this way of duplicating the function of a neuron with a microtubule, something 1/1,000,000th the size of a neuron. So it could make a brain in 1/1,000,000th the space, using 1/1,000,000th the energy. But instead, it says, let's make big, expensive neurons instead. Let's not go with that super easy way to get to consciousness. No. Let's not make a brain out of microtubules. No. Let's make big, giant, huge, expensive neurons instead. You're a fucktard.
I've looked to where I can contribute, but when it comes to science, there's a lot of learning. It's not a conclusion body of science. It's a body of fact.
It's not a body of fact. So that's the joke here, right? The Copenhagen interpretation isn't fact. Okay? Their silly analysis of experiments and the defects in experiments, as I've pointed out, is fucking silly. The fact that nobody looked at the two-slit experiment and recognized that the biggest distinction is that by creating an impediment, you're now forcing the strongest light to go right next to a surface, where with the single slit, the strongest light is the furthest away from the surface. So the greatest distance from the surface, the most intense light is in the single slit. In the double slit, the most intense light is going right next to a surface. I figured that out. I realized, oh shit, that's probably got something to do with the fucking explanation, right? That seems a pretty substantial difference between the two circumstances. So maybe we should think about that, and how that is causing the circumstance rather than some silly, absolutely nonsensical, phantasmagorical fairy thinking where they start talking about photons going through both slits and then recombining and then riding waves and then jumping off the surfboard and crashing into one spot. Fucking fairy tales that you defend. That's what science is. A bunch of crap. Einstein, really smart guy, but if you really think about his convergence, his two-dimensional bent fabric, it has no way to convert it into 3 dimensions, and it's a perpetual energy machine of some kind. It's preposterously nonsensical on its face. Things just keep going in, but nothing ever comes out. It's pulling and pulling and pulling. Well, when it's pulling, where's all the stuff it's pulling going? Oh, that's right. It's popping out the wormhole in the other dimension. Fables. Fucking fables.
You don't get to just ignore. You have to take it into account.
Yeah, that's right, and it all can be taken into account. And this is the joke of it. Well, he's going to say it, so I'll wait till he says it's something, and then I'll trigger my response. I just want to get to like the Einstein lensing thing. This is kind of an important thing. So by my theory, look, the worst gravity could do is push lights this way, sideways. So if something was coming at you and there was gravity over here, let's say, pulling on it, it's actually pushing, but let's just, for the sake of argument, all it could do to the light would be move it this way. So it would be moving sideways a little bit, and so it would be off its original track a little bit. But what happens with lensing is stars don't end up shifted a little bit. They end up shifted a whole fucking big pile. The star is actually here, and we see it over here, way far away from where it should be. So it's not being pushed over like the light goes by the planet, and then the gravity pushes the light in a little bit. It's got to push it in a lot, and so it seems more obvious that if you're going to have that big a difference in the appearance of where something shows up, 10, 15, 20 degrees of arc difference, that can only be created by diffraction, that the light has to be reflected at a different angle. So the light's hitting something, a charged particle, an electron, is being diffracted. That's what it is. It's diffraction. That's what gravitational lensing is. It's not gravitational lensing, it's diffraction lensing. Anyway. Nobody, people aren't going to understand what I just said, but it goes through my whole directional information argument. That the only thing being exchanged is direction, and you can't change something's forward progress in a kinetic universe. You can only shift it sideways. And the only way you can make it go off at some obscure angle is it has to hit matter. It has to hit an electron to go off at an angle. It has to hit a particle that is a solar system. It has to enter a solar system. See, this is a good example. If a planet was traveling and it had a little pull of gravity, would just keep pushing it over a little bit. But if it went into a solar system and went in an orbit, it can fly out anywhere. It can completely change the angle of its trajectory. It can actually go the opposite direction. So it can enter a solar system and entirely reverse its direction. Yeah. Now, it's a huge difference between being pushed a little and having your vector completely arbitrary. You can choose any one of the vectors. And that's what happens when a photon interacts with an electron. It can technically leave at any vector.
If it has an explanation and you have an alternate explanation, then you still have to go ahead and explain, the data. You can replace it.
Right, I have done all that. So, I've explained GPS, I've explained time dilation, I've explained magnetism, and I'm explaining the nuclear forces. It explains all of it. It accounts for all of it. It explains the tricky idea of momentum as a realization that the matter itself is changed, and that's why it keeps moving, is because the matter itself has been changed, and now a propensity of the matter itself is moving in that direction. There are more arrows, directional arrows, going the way you're moving, and less going the opposite way. And that's why you move, is because you have eccentric orbits in your matter. That's what velocity is. So when you're accelerated, what's happening is a bunch of directional information is being pushed into you, a bunch of arrows. They're replacing the arrows you have that might be going this way, and they're being replaced by arrows going this way. And so you end up with a net balance after the acceleration of more arrows going in a certain direction, and you will continue to go in that direction until some other source of arrows changes the directions of your arrows, changes your net arrow balance. So I've explained momentum. I've explained inertia, the longest held mystery. I've got it. Fuckhead.
That explanation, you can't just ignore the whole data
I don't ignore the whole data. I do ignore silly entanglement experiments that are based on 967 million variables. Machinery where they claim, well, we saw the photon here, then we asked it 4 questions over there, and then we gave it a bath over here, and then we combed its hair over there. Yeah, it was all the same photon. Yeah, we did that. I detected it here, and then I caught it over there. Yeah, sure you did.
Lying eyes must be to blame. You can't say our lying eyes must be to blame, but then you have to explain why it looks this way.
No, why don't you give me something to explain, and I'll explain it. But if it's going to be a 568,000 piece experiment, where you have 478,000 variables, all of which could be fucking the experiment, yeah, I'll pass on that.
Again, I use the example of when the sun comes up, you can explain why it seems to come up, even though that when you claim...
Yeah, well, whatever, that's just trivial nonsense. So again, you're just being patronizing to think anybody really gives a shit about stupid crap like that. Duh.
oh, that's not what's really going on. So, Gary's theories has become kind of one of the kinds that's posted on, people's board. Whereas,
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's categorizable in a group. Okay, these are the anti-convention, fringe, outsider theories. So what? I mean, Einstein was one of those at first. The day he published, that's what he was. So that doesn't mean anything. The point is will you make an argument? Can you make an argument? And again, a lot of this physics doesn't change any established math. It just explains why the math comes out the way it does. And it will better explain reality. I mean, it will explain that lensing probably isn't a very good way to measure gravity. So if you're measuring the gravity, the weight, the mass of systems in space, billions of years of light years away, you're probably getting the numbers wrong if you're using lensing as a way of, as an indication of gravity. Because lensing isn't proportional to gravity. Lensing is proportional to how much clutter or dust or dirt there is in the system that's doing the lensing.
My approach, I remember, so the youngest I remember really getting fascinated with physics as such as I was 8 years old, and I got a little pamphlet. I think it must have been written for 10-year-olds or something. Who knows?
Yeah, well, whatever. Let's all tell our own little personal stories. I got interested in physics when I figured out that piss and poo fall down. Yeah, that was interesting. I wonder why they fall down. Why don't they fall up? Why don't they do it that way? Why don't they go that? How come they go down? What is that?
It was fascinating about momentum, and it was very formative for me because not only did it talk about momentum, but it sort of acknowledged that we didn't know exactly what momentum was.
Yes, even Feynman conceded he didn't know what it was. And I do. I've explained it now. Acceleration imposes a real change in the matter. It changes the thing that's getting accelerated. Acceleration is a force. The force is imposed on the matter. The matter is restructured by the acceleration. And because of that restructuring, it now has a net character, where its net directional arrow balance is now in the direction of its velocity. And it will continue to move in that direction because it has a net excess of arrows in that direction, and it will continue to go that way until something changes its net directional arrow balance. Its kinetic energy balance in that direction has to be changed by more arrows in the opposite direction or in some other direction.
And we understood it in terms of inertia and a property kind of like, and mass and inertia. But it also went through all the theories, a bunch of theories anyway, that people had about momentum before momentum, like why do all bodies keep moving?
Yes, well, everything keeps doing what it's doing because it's all nuclear. Gravity is a nuclear force. Gravity is only affecting the nuclear elements, the subatomic particles. It doesn't affect atomic particle. It doesn't affect atoms. It doesn't affect whole bodies. It doesn't affect any of that stuff. It only affects quanta. It affects arrows. Arrows have to hit arrows. The gravity arrows come down. They hit the the quantons, which are just arrows, caught in the orbits of the electrons and the neutrons and the protons. All of those elements have these arrows in them. All of those elements are influenced by how many arrows are hitting them, and they are exchanging balance. If more are moving in some direction, they will acquire more in that direction. So our atomic particles are moved by gravity. Our subatomic particles are moved by gravity. Not the big thing, just the little bits. That's why it doesn't matter if you cut my arms off and you cut my head off and you cut my knees off, cut my legs off, separate them all by a few inches, and I have exactly the same center of gravity. I'm exactly the same thing, essentially. Each of the parts has its own independent, equal substance. And you could keep cutting them into pieces, and the only time it's going to matter is when you start cutting the atoms into pieces, or the subatomic particles into pieces. That's the only way you still can't change it. Arrows are arrows.
Like the theory that you throw an object and it pushes the wind out and the wind whips around and hits in the back and keeps pushing it away. Things like that.
Yeah, silly, stupid. Like a rope theory. Every single atom is connected to every single particle is connected to every single particle. That's Bill Grade's idiotic theory. By ropes. And light travels on the rope. It's silly.
And it was real formative to me because subsequent to that, I always looked at science and indeed all knowledge through this history of how people got it wrong and the fact that we are in the middle of that process now. So
yeah, well, you're really not in the middle of it, right? The physics has no interest in re-examining Einstein, none whatsoever. And Feynman was an integral part of that obnoxious just do the math bullshit. Don't pay any attention to a model. Don't look for it. I'm smart. I can't find it. You can't find it. That was his obnoxiously patronizing, pontificating, fat-headed attitude. And it was frankly beneath him. He was a better man than that. He really was a great man. But his ego got in the way.
You're wrong, and if you're going to guess how you're wrong now, knowing how you were wrong in the progression to how you got where you are now is perhaps more interesting and important than where you happen to be at the moment.
Yeah, well, I know, but you don't seem to take any of that very seriously, right? Because you just dismiss it all as, oh, they're just cranks and they're just silly and blah, 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 and it's all blah, 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 blah. You're just being trivial. So, bravo. Trivial video. Thank you. Absolutely no information value whatsoever in this video.
Especially since science often requires taking a couple steps back because you go down the wrong way.
Well, gee, now isn't that coincidental? That's exactly right. Why don't you take 300 years back to particle gravity, kinetic gravity, the first theory of particle gravity. And because they just weren't smart enough to really understand this whole kinetic thing and the true efficiency of perfect kinetics. So they really weren't capable of understanding this frictionless world of pure kinetics. Yeah, they just didn't get it all right. But the concept was clear. It has a huge conceptual advantage over Einstein's the nothing is telling the something what to do, in that it came up with the inverse square because it had straight line force dynamics. And those straight line force dynamics hold true for magnetism and electricity and the nuclear forces. It's solid. It's a straight line. All force is straight line communication. There's no bent. There's straight line.
You go, try to solve Alzheimer's with this. It's like, no, okay, we're going to finally do these ideas we were ignoring, and then you do it.
Yeah, well, right, but they seem very resistant to do that. They just mock it. Lesage is a joke. Well, Lesage was a thief. The DuPont guy, or whatever his name was, he was the real guy.
So,
well, I'm actually the real guy, because I came up with it without even knowing either one of their names. So, yeah, I'm the real guy.
So I basically tried to learn as much science, and I learned about time dilation, you street omni, and...
Yeah, you didn't learn shit, because, yeah, you got it wrong. Yeah. Matter has metabolism. When you move matter with a velocity, it can't do what it's doing anymore because it's moving now. So it has to do what it was doing slower because now it's doing something else. It's moving. Moving takes time. Moving takes distance. Distance takes time. It doesn't have time to do what it was doing before because now it has to use some of its time to move.
Science Digest and stuff, and I've kept up with science, and so my system
Yeah, I don't think you've kept up with shit. All you've done is say, what's the newest and wildest fairy tale?
of understanding is designed to fill in or create interpretations of the data, not to just frankly complain.
Wow, how interesting. Not.
And they're not doing my idea or something, or
They're not doing my idea. That's all people are doing is just complaining. No, what they're doing is you're proposing silly crap, and then they're saying, well, wait a minute, you really believe this Copenhagen crap? You really believe that photons split in two, go through both the slits, ride a wave, and then recombine into a photon somehow? They do all of that shit. Stupid photons. And then they read our minds and figure out whether we're looking at them or not. Yeah, sure they do. And yeah, somebody's not supposed to say, oh, that sounds like absolute fucking... What, are you on fucking crack, scientists? What the fuck is that for an explanation? That's nonsense. Yeah, I can do better than that. So, yeah. Part-time for 4 years. I do a little research, and yeah, I figure it out.
or whatever, or to prejudge. I like to make my guesses like the quantum biology is going somewhere, as I did like 4 years.
Yeah, oh yeah, quantum biology. Yeah. Why don't you do a video on it? Okay, please. Do a video on how quantum biology means something. In any real sense. Without relying on the part that's basically just quantum electrodynamics, which is just doing the friggin' math. I mean, that's not any kind of special Copenhagen kind of quantum. So, this whole fucking bullshit where they use this word quantum as everything, theoretical, practical, and they don't make a distinction. And it's just such a fucking lame thing to do. There's no quantum biology.
Years ago, and it's shot off like a rocket.
Shut off like what? Where? How? Where? Show me this shotting offing. Bullshit. Bullshit! You don't understand the simplest concepts. This guy doesn't really understand that light doesn't move slower when it travels through a medium like glass. It doesn't move slower. It moves more distance. That's not magic, idiot. There's no wormholes. There's no jumping to the other side of an atom. There's none of this bullshit you're inventing.
I was right. Well,
You weren't right about shit. What a pile of crap. What a pile of absolute crap.
Happens a lot because when I've been wrong, I go, I got that one wrong. Why was that? And I study that chain of events so that now I have a pretty good...
Yeah, whatever. I don't think you have a good handle on anything. And I think you're really wrong about microtubules being neurons.
Handle of where science is at and is going. Poor monkey.
Well, whatever. Where it's going is in my back pocket. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but yeah, that's where it's going. I'm Einstein squared. I mean, fuck. I did it all. I finished Einstein's unification work. Okay? Plus, I solved all this other extra shit. I gave you momentum. I gave you inertia for free as a freebie. And I explained all the other shit without some stupid, idiotic, the nothing bends and makes the something fall into the whole. Yeah. Without all that shit.
And so my additional theory is this illusions exist theory, for example.
Yeah, which is does somebody know what that is? So somebody have the cliff notes on that? What does this illusions exist theory comprised of? What exactly does that even mean? What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that?
people probably is my most comprehensive theory of everything. And I
I don't understand any of it because I don't see any of it, and I don't know what the fuck it would be made out of except for woo-woo and poo-poo.
At things in terms of information processing.
Yeah, well, whatever. This whole information bullshit. There's exchange of directional information. That's all there is. There's nothing else happening in the universe. Quantons are exchanging directional information. That's all that there is. The rest of it's just patterns they're stuck in. Once the pattern's established, the pattern has to be broken. That's just the rule. Once it survives, once a pattern gets created, survives for 10 minutes, it's probably going to last 10 million years unless something breaks it. That's the rule.
You know, in a way that is going to borrow learning from physics or any other science, not try to
borrow learning. So he's borrow learning, and he's not doing like other people. They're trying to change the learning. Yeah, they're breaking our phantasmagorical fairy tale paradigm and saying, nah, that's really not good enough. The nothing tells the something what to do. Not even close to good enough. The Force made it happen. The nondescript, unexplained thing did it.
Ignore or contradict it. If something in science seems to be going some way, like some people think that the computers are getting more and more artificially intelligent. We're just going to hit it at some point and it'll be conscious. You know, I don't think that's going to happen, right?
I don't think there's a chance in hell that that's going to happen until you create some selection process that selects for computers that start getting emotional.
And so I make my other prediction.
Start going, ouch.
But if it happens, then I'll go, oop, fair play, and I will incorporate the information that's been demonstrated to me. And that's what these...
Yeah, well, you're never going to see any of that shit ever happen. It's just not going to happen. We're not doing the experiment. In the first place, I mean, come on, 4 billion years of evolution. Had a long time to make one of these brain things. But yeah, it's hard to speed it up. But, I mean, theoretically, I guess they could do cycles very quickly with synthetics, but they have to have some kind of real matrix to them. So, you know. But you're probably not going to be able to do it through any other process than selecting for something that might be like erratic emotionalism. It's kind of hard to do that in a computer.
Crank systems don't do. That's what makes it a crank system. That's what makes it bad science. They do not.
Yeah, so whatever. So that's your critique. So when the bad science, as you've labeled me, proves you to be the propagandist of bad science, incorrect theories of reality, what do I get to call you? You know, what's the fair response? Clock stopper.
Incorporate successful arguments against them. They don't generally even acknowledge them. They use a...
Says you. They certainly don't acknowledge your phantasmagorical, silly, made-up. It goes through both slits. There's no other way to explain it. It must interfere with itself. So, when you have a single slit diffraction, it's interfering with itself by going through the same slit twice. It just splits in half all the time. Anytime it sees a slit, it just says, split in half. Yeah, I know there's only one slit. So what? Split in half so we can interfere with ourselves.
A lot of semantic arguments where we might not even have...
Oh, semantics. It's just semantics. Yeah, it's just semantics that we're just going to pretend that wave interference and diffraction just happen to be the same thing when they're nothing like each other.
The terms to understand a phenomena that has only so recently been understood that are throughout our evolution, we were not really exposed to it directly enough to comprehend it. We need new.
What does that even mean? Does he really think science has anything to do with evolution? Science is just barely a couple hundred years old in any kind of serious way. And it's completely instrumentality based. It doesn't have anything to do with our evolution. It's just silly. I mean, the only evolutionary component to science is human will, and the will to ignore the inconvenient truth.
Concepts to understand it. We need, like, it's not about is the universe random or not. It's no, we need a better understanding of randomness. You know?
Yeah, no, we don't need any understanding of randomness because it's a silly word. It's a silly concept. It's just plain silly. It doesn't have any meaning as any state the universe is ever in.
Is probabilism the same as randomness? We need a better...
Well, quite obviously not anything to do with each other. And there is no such thing as probability. There's inevitability, and the rest is just our inability to understand the variables. So yes, there's more variables than we can understand. Well, now things become probabilistic. But there is no such thing as a reality. Probability is only a symptom of ignorance.
Understanding and concept to have when we use the word, probabilism, and it brings up a concept. That concept's not set in stone. Science is about it.
Yeah, science should be about getting rid of these silly words, spontaneous, random, and it should qualify probability for what it is, which is ignorance of variables.
Proving those concepts. And so making these semantic arguments from the concepts that you got of 5,000-10,000-year-old words.
So who are you even talking to now, right? I love these videos where people are just talking to space like it did something. Why are you taking concepts and using semantics, and they do that, and thems and thoses and whatever, but I won't be specific at all? Great.
It's like that's not going to go very far, and it leads to crackpot science that is crank.
Right. So again, when I demonstrate that Einstein was crackpot science, basically completely wrong. No relative velocity, just absolute velocity. no spent space, no bent time, just slower metabolism, slow material metabolism. The clock moves slower when it's moving fast. Fact, its matter moves slower. It metabolizes everything slower.
And not communicative. Because, see, I like these systems. I like the art of them. I like science fiction. Often they're so intricate and hard work. You could at least make a weird Philip K. Dick novel out of it. I see value.
Yeah, whatever. You see value in silliness, which is really stupid. I see it as sort of a awful lot of distracting noise, and we really should have some process to glean it in a serious way. We should be able to do this science thing up front and in the open. It should be an easy process to get peer review, not a complex process. Should be.
Even their value that when I respected, the crank theorist is like, no, it's reality. It's not an artwork. Things like that. And that was another one that...
yeah, well, you would think, that's it. At least you're calling them crank and silly and stupid and whatever, all this stuff, bad. It's doing bad science, but at least they're smart enough to know when they've been insulted. Yeah, if you're going to call their hard work art, yeah, it should piss them off.
Astrometry guy, and I told him I like the artwork of his thing, and people don't like that. But anyway,
I mean, it's like you laughing at somebody doing Shakespeare or something. I mean, they should get a little bit pissed off. What do you mean? What are you laughing at? I'm doing Shakespeare, fucker. You know, I mean, if they're going to bother dressing as in a tutu, and you know, at least trying to do ballet, you should respect the fact that at least he's trying to do ballet, and I shouldn't pretend he's, you know, doing a clown act, even though he's funny. I mean, I shouldn't
if you're
say
not
it to
going
his
to
face.
integrate with the body of evidence that we're
Yeah, integrate with your body of evidence. What you say is the truth. Right? Right. Photons go through both slits.
sharing about the world, and yes, you can reinterpret it, and sometimes those reinterpretations could be radical, but that's not the same as just ignoring it or not explaining it or saying.
Well, again, I have explained it, and the point is it's not a little bit wrong, it's radically wrong. Photons are the dumbest thing in the universe, next to a graviton. Photons are really simple. They don't do shit. They move in a straight line from point A to point B, and they have a frequency, a distance between them. But that's it. They don't have any other tricks. You know, polarization, you know, their shape. But that's it. They're as simple as the graviton, except they have a frequency. You can't get more rudimentary. So, yeah, quantum mechanics, which is based on a presumption that photons have magic powers, is fundamentally nonsense.
Hey, we'll have a whole different system, and the math will work out. No, that's not how it works. You know,
Says you. Wow, from your lounge chair, you've declared it. Oh, okay. Where's your evidence that it doesn't work? Where's your evidence that it doesn't fit the math? Oh, okay. You don't have any evidence. Oh, gotcha.
we could discuss physics and stuff, but not on that kind of basis. And that's the basis, you know, that's insisted upon in the bad.
Bullshit. Again, I mean, the fact that I can explain time dilation, the fact that I can explain the inverse square rule, I can explain, I'm consistent with all those, and any other theory of energy mechanics, I'm going to be able to explain it as a transfer of these directional arrows. They're the only thing being exchanged is direction. The school of fish thing. The energy is in the fish. You just count how many fish you got, and you know how much energy you got.
Science crank pop world, so that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, fuck you. Again, just couldn't be more patronizing, right? So I'm entitled, you know, somebody that patronizing, I'm entitled to have whatever the reciprocal of a patronizing thing is. After you've been patronized and you've been proven to be correct, you should be able to do something appropriate. You know, there should be an appropriate way to fart in his direction, so to speak. Forever. Yeah, I should be able to do it forever. Yo. Fuck you. Forever. Yeah. Alright, anyway. Probably enough. I have to make some more draft science videos. I have to decide about the whole Wikipedia thing. I mean, it's just so much to do, and I'm so busy, and blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, yeah. I've got the physics thing nailed. It's nailed. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to talk. I mean, I see it so clearly now. It just gets clear. With each day, it gets clearer and clearer and clearer. I got it. You don't have to believe me. I'm just saying, if you watch the videos, you'll get it. If you pay attention, you'll get it. It explains everything. Shit. Anyway. It's an arrow matrix. That's all it is. Arrows trapped in eddies. We're just an eddy. A very complex eddy of arrow movement. That's it. Probably some better way to say that. It doesn't matter. Anyway, till next time. It's really simple. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else just to, you know, finish off with, but I guess it doesn't matter. No. But anyway, this was a useless video. You have to concede, right? Piro didn't say anything in this video that... Was there a sentence that you found valuable in this video of his? I don't have a single sentence I can find any use in. No, none of it. So what? Yeah. Ooh, most cranks are wrong. Well, true enough. But maybe one of them's right. Yeah. Just maybe.